Hello students, this is Beryl Reshmi Aras meeting you all through this virtual platform. In the previous video, you have seen Philip Sidney's responses to the various charges against poetry produced ever since Plato, especially the four charges made by Stephen Gosson and Philip Sidney's responses to that. In this video, I'll be dealing with Philip Sidney and classicism, Philip Sidney and his views on classical literature. Before getting into that, you have to keep one thing in your mind. During the time of Philip Sidney, English literature is not a great literature as it is today. English literature was in its infancy. So, the literary critic of that period, they read or watched the literature that is being produced in other languages, other classical languages like Italian or Greek or Hebrew, Latin, or whatever it may be. They read the literature, they analyzed the literature, and they came up with their own critical ideas. So those critical ideas became a framework or rules for the literature that is being produced later. So for example, you can take Aristotle. Aristotle watched or read Greek tragedies. After watching so many tragedies, he inferred something. He came up with his inferences, what he learned from watching all those tragedies. So he gave a framework. A tragedy should have six constituents. The plot should be structured in this manner. The plot can be categorized in this category. So, the writers who came after Aristotle, when they produced a tragedy, they checked this theoretical output given by Aristotle. Even today, when a tragedy is being produced in English, a research scholar who is trying to analyze this tragedy, they will go back to Aristotle. They will check what are the constraints that has been given by Aristotle. What's the structure of the play, that plot that has been given by Aristotle. So whether this tragedy fits into that model that has been given by Aristotle. That's how they research. And when they produce tragedies, they make it in a way that they fit into the framework that has been produced by Aristotle. So this is similar with all the literary critics of the time. So here, Philip Sidney's classicism. So they have an interest towards the classical literature and they want to import things from classical literature. The same thing is happening even today. We have different brands of literature: Indian literature, American literature, Australian literature, Pakistani literature, Southeast literature, whatever it may be. So everybody is trying to bring their own tradition into the English language, into English literature. That's how there comes different types of English literature. So, looking at this trial made in the initial days by bringing in these rules set in by the classical writers into English language, this Philip Sidney's work, Apology for Poetry, is considered as the first serious attempt to apply classical rules to English poetry. Say, there has been so many attempts that has been made, but this is the first serious attempt that has been made to bring in these classical rules to English literature. So, in ancient Greek tradition, poets were considered as makers. I think that is common in all traditions. For example, in English, we call writing as creative writing. You are creating something. You are creating a poem, or you are creating a short story or novel, or whatever it may be. Even in Tamil, they are called as Padaipali, Padaipatal. Okay, they are creating something. But this ancient Greek, they didn't end with that. They compared this creator or the poet with the heavenly creator, who is none other than our God. So, in all religions, we believe that God created this earth. Similarly, this writer, this author is also creating something. God's creation is earth. Poet's creation is poetry. A dramatist creation is drama. So somehow these people are creating something. So they can be left in a position next to God. They are more or less equal to God. Both of them are creating. The poet as well as the God is creating. And next, coming to Roman culture. There, they believed that poet is a prophet. So prophet is someone who can foretell things that is going to happen in future. So we believe that only this omnipotent God can foresay or foretell what is going to happen. But this poet has been given the power to foresay things. So here again, the poet is equal to God. So such reverence is given to poet in the ancient Greek and ancient Roman society. So Philip Sidney wished that even in English society, poet should be given such reverence. Poet should be considered next to God. He deserves such appreciation. But that's not happening in an English society because that time English literature is just budding. Okay, they are creating something new, but they are not that much acknowledged. So his pronouncement is whatever this Philip Sidney has produced in the field of literary criticism is based on what Plato, Aristotle, and Horace has already said. So Plato and Aristotle, you might have learned in the first unit, and Horace, if you have the prescribed test with you, you can go through that. So his ideas, Philip Sidney's ideas of literary criticism is greatly based on the ideas of Aristotle, Plato, and Horace. So while looking at the syllabus in general, you have some 8 critics. The first 4 chapters, you have 8 critics. So while looking at the theory that has been produced by these critics, everybody will give, while looking at this pattern, every critic will give you a definition for poetry, his own definition for poetry, and he will give you a function of poetry. So, as I said earlier, this definition of poetry differs from person to person as every critic gives his or her own views of poetry as his definition of poetry. But regarding the function of poetry, right from the beginning, only 2 functions has been assigned to poetry. One, to teach the reader. Second one, to delight the reader. So, poetry should either teach the reader some moral values, or second one, it should just provide fun or pleasure to the reader. So, when you look at your syllabus, there will be a pattern that you can identify only at the end of the like only when you finish the syllabus you can find it out. If one critic says that the function of poetry is to please the reader, the next critic will say the function of poetry is to teach the reader. Okay, some people believe that when you are learning something you should learn something from that. It should teach some values for you, unless it is not worthy. Well, the other group of people says that okay, poetry, we are reading it for fun, for enjoyment, for entertainment. So it need not teach anything. Okay, it should just give some pleasure, happiness to the reader. So 2 kinds of people. So you can categorize people based on that. So here, when coming to Philip Sidney's definition and function, Philip Sidney's idea of function of poetry is based on Plato's, or Philip Sidney follows Plato's ideas when it comes to function of poetry. And his definition of poetry is based on Aristotle's definition of poetry, Aristotle and Horace's definition of poetry. So Philip Sidney defines poetry as poesy is an art of imitation with this end to teach and delight. So, poetry is an art of imitation. Imitation is just copying something. Okay, something is happening in reality. So, this poet is copying it out in literature. That's what happening in different genres of literature, movies. Some kind of murder happens. So, this man gets an inspiration, bring it to screen. Your advertisements, some kind of things like they meet in their day-to-day life, bring it to screen, advertisements. So does poetry. Rainwater harvesting, okay, immediately some scenario comes in your mind, you bring it to your work. So that's what copying something from reality, that is imitating. That's what poetry is. So Aristotle uses the term mimesis to refer to this imitation. So all those things mean the same, copying something from reality. So Aristotle uses the term mimesis and Philip Sidney uses the term imitation. And then with its end, that is its function. Function is to teach and delight. Okay? It's not merely delight. Some people may say about movies, if it's just for fun, we'll be telling commercial movie. We can watch for our time. Okay, but some people doesn't believe in that. They want that story should have a moral to be taught to the audience, so that's how they believe. So similar here, he says that this end is to teach and delight. Poesy is an art of imitation with this end to teach and delight. So poetry is an imitation, art of imitating something from nature, and its purpose is to teach and delight. Next, the next thing is about the unity. As you already know, we have three unities: unity of action, unity of time, and unity of place. So, this I can explain very well with our Tamil movies. Okay, so this unity of action is that you may have seen in your Tamil movies the hero and the heroine, they'll be living in a very poor condition, they'll be struggling for their food. Just after a song, the heroine may become a collector. The heroine may be a collector, or this hero, he may own so many things in the world, he may have become rich. So, this is something that cannot happen within a span of 5 minutes. Just before the song, they are suffering from this poverty. After this song, they are enjoying this fun that money is providing them. They are enjoying the pleasure or the luxury of this money or luxury of this postings that has been given to these people. Is it possible within that 5 minutes time? It's impossible. Okay, so the action that's being shown in the story should be some, there should be some reality in the action. Okay, so it's not something that's possible. So if you are showing a man becoming a collector, you should give that much span of time. Okay, so what they want is by this unity of time, unity of place again. Our Indian movies or Tamil cinema, it will be just set in a village. So in this village, the hero and heroine may be working in a farm and they fall in love. So for the song, they'll be going to America. The shooting will be in Malaysia or America or in some other foreign countries. So that's impossible. So it's impossible for a farmer to travel to America within a second and dance there in America. It's not possible. So unity of place. If that movie is being set in, sorry, for them it's play. So if the play is set in Nagarkoil, it should be set in Nagarkoil. You should not move to Chennai. It's not possible. So if your movie is play is being set in your college, the play can move to somewhere like in the playground, in the classroom. That kind of change is possible. But it's impossible to move from your college to Chennai. Okay, so that's unity of place and unity of action and unity of time, again the same. So when the movie begins, the hero and heroine will be like a 2-year-old child walking gently. Just after the letter scene, hero is 20-year-old, heroine is 18 years old. They meet in the college. The movie goes on like that. So such kind of unreal things cannot happen. So if you are giving a movie, if it's a 1 hour movie, you should just present things that can happen within this span of time, this 1 hour. There should be unity of time, unity of place, and unity of action. Sudden shifting of location, sudden shifting of time, and sudden change in the position. Okay, in action. Only these things that can happen in reality can be presented in a movie or a play. That is unity of action. So, three unities. Classical writers followed these three unities. Okay, so if you take a play, if a play is set in a particular garden, all through the play, throughout the play is set in the garden alone. Okay, so that's how they set the plays. And considering these rules, Aristotle spoke only about unity of action. He does not talk about unity of time or unity of place, but they are interpreters. Interpretation is like now Philip Sidney has given the theory. I am explaining it to you by taking examples from Indian movies, Indian cinemas. I am giving you, teaching you. That's interpretation. Similarly, after Aristotle produced this work, so many interpreters explained this work to the later readers. So, such readers, they said that Aristotle has spoken about unity of action explicitly through open manner. But with that, he implies that unity of time and unity of place is also essential. As I said earlier, okay, before the song, the people, the hero and heroine are suffering in poverty. After the song, they are flourishing well. Okay, so they have become rich. So now, this does not follow the unity of action. Also, it violates this unity of time too, because it takes much time to achieve great things in your life, and it also violates unity of place. Okay, he might have gone somewhere to learn or to get acquainted with the skills that is essential to get money. So all these things have been cropped when it comes to movies. So these interpreters, they believe that by unity of action, Aristotle implies unity of time and unity of place as well. Okay, so if a plot to be well knit, we should just bring in things that can happen within 24 hours, one revolution of the sun. Okay, like Chennai ஒரு நாள். Okay, things that is happening in one day, or எங்கேயும் எப்போதும். That's just a bus journey. Okay, so only those things that's being happening in one day can be captured. So it follows unity of time. And then single place of action. So the bus is traveling from Chennai. Okay. Only that particular span of time is being covered. Unity of time. And unity of action too, because that's something that happens in real life. No extravagancy. Okay. That's being given there. So that's what is what called as following these three unities. Okay. So these interpreters, they believe that only when a play or a movie is following all three unities, that the plot is well knit. Okay. So Sidney also insists on the observance of place and time along with action. Sidney also believes that. Okay. By following action, you are following time and place too. So he takes the first English tragedy, Gorboduc, for example. So this Gorboduc, this is a play that is modeled on Senecan tragedy. Senecan tragedy or Senecan technique. So Seneca, he is again an Italian writer. He produces some kind of plays which is categorized as revenge tragedy. Revenge tragedy means like there have been some murder happen before the play opens. So before the play opens, a murder has happened. So, one member of that particular family, say if the father has been killed, the son, the son will be trying to take revenge on the murderer of his father. I hope you can understand. The father has been murdered, so the son wants to take revenge on the murderer. So, all through the play, he'll be searching for that murderer and take revenge of him. Okay, the son comes to know about the father's death, father's murderer, from his father's ghost. So the father's ghost comes down and tells the son that, okay, so and so has killed me. Okay, you should take revenge. And this boy, the son, tries to take revenge. And this movie and this play goes on. Okay, that's the structure of a typical revenge tragedy created by Seneca. Okay, so as I said earlier, these English writers, when they are about to create some tragedy, they modeled their tragedy on Seneca's model. They followed Seneca's model and they produced several works based on Seneca's tragedy. Okay, so this man, Philip Sidney, says that okay, Gorboduc is a good play because it follows all these Senecan techniques. Good. But Gorboduc is not following this unity of time and place. So it cannot be considered as a good play. Okay, I can appreciate it for following this Senehan technique, but it is not following unity of time and unity of place. So it cannot be considered as a good play. And next, he's also not happy with this genre of tragicomedy. So tragicomedy is partly tragedy and partly comedy. Okay. So this man's Philip Sidney is not happy with that. If it is tragedy, it should be a pure tragedy. If it's a comedy, it should be a pure comedy. No mingling of comedy and tragedy. Okay. So he considers it as an absurd thing. And finally, if we consider the place of his time, we can say that during that time when English literature was just budding, no great plays were created. So, this writer of this book says that if Philip Sidney has read this romantic plays that has been produced after Philip Sidney, he might have changed his opinion. He might have given different critical ideas about the English plays. That's the comment given by the author of our prescribed textbook. Okay, thank you, students. I'm stopping with this. We can see about the advocacy of the classical meters in the next video. If you have some doubts, you can post it in the comment box. Thank you.